The wind on the rooftop helipad pushed city dust into bright evening light. Aisha Rahman, the young CEO of Skyspan Dynamics, stood with her board watching technicians load a sleek graphite helicopter. She'd carried the company through a brutal quarter, and the board wanted a win. Tonight they had an important investor dinner that might save a contested space logistics contract. She was all steel and calm voice, but inside, her nerves hummed. By the safety rail, a quiet man in a gray uniform scrubbed a scuff mark from the helipad paint. Elon Voss, night janitor. Always early, always silent. He kept to shadows and schedules like they were part of his spine. Aisha barely noticed him most days, until Mikal Shore, her smooth-talking strategy chief, chuckled and nudged her elbow. 10,000 says he can't even start it, Mikal said, pointing with his chin at the janitor. Some of the board members laughed the way people laugh when power is a blanket and the night is cold. Aisha raised one eyebrow, pretending to be amused. She hated these games, but she also knew how to let pressure escape from a room. She walked toward Elon. "You there?" she called, wind ruffling her ponytail, voice casual. "Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you." The board burst into laughter, too loud, too eager. Even Aisha smiled, because a joke is easier to carry than fear. Elon didn't smile. He lifted his gaze, and for the first time Aisha saw his eyes, steady, patient, old with miles flown across places without roads. He set the brush in his bucket, walked past her without a word, opened the pilot door, and sat down like that seat had always been his. The laughter died. Elon's hands moved like the quiet part of a symphony. Switches up, fuel scan, avionics check. He didn't peacock. He didn't even look at the watchers. The turbine's whine rose from a hum to a living animal's breath. Rotors blurred the sky. The helicopter lifted as smooth as a held note, hovered at 20 feet, no wobble, no wander, then bowed the nose in a crisp pirouette that felt like respect, not arrogance. He slid out over the skyline, banked, drew a clean arc above the river, and returned to a hover so steady a coin wouldn't have rattled on the console. The skids kissed the pad like a whisper. Power down. Silence. Elon stepped out, shut the door, picked up his brush, and went back to the scuff mark. Aisha realized her heart was pounding. Mikal's grin had cracked into something thin and nervous. The board whispered in quick little bursts, searching for a place to put what they'd seen. "Who are you?" Aisha asked. She didn't mean job title. "Maintenance," Elon said. His voice was calm. "Good evening, ma'am." He pushed the bucket toward the stairwell. "Elon," Aisha called, and the name felt right in her mouth, like she'd always known it. "Where did you learn to fly like that?" He paused. The corners of his eyes folded with a tired kindness. "Places that don't show up on maps," he said. "It was a long time ago." He left. The door closed. The rooftop felt suddenly too bright. Downstairs, the boardroom lights were warm and false. Charts glowed on glass. The investors were already texting new conditions. A competitor, Seraphis Orbital, had leaked rumors that Skyspan's guidance arrays were unreliable. There was also a rumor, ridiculous but sticky, that Skyspan was refusing to cooperate with the UED Liaison Council, the interspecies body that managed polite contact with alien neighbors. Lies travel faster than rotors. Aisha's phone buzzed. Zara Chien, head of ops. Bad news. The Seraphis audit team just pulled their courtesy landing request. They're going straight to the regulator with a complaint. Aisha pinched the bridge of her nose. Of course they are. She tried to focus on numbers and leverage points, but the rooftop sat inside her head. Elon's hands. That still hover. The way he said places that don't show up on maps. Aisha grew up in Karachi under the old sky before the orbital lanes got busy. Her father used to say that flying is telling the air a truth and waiting to see if the air agrees. Elon's air agreed. She opened a private terminal and ran a background search. Elon Voss. The screen returned almost nothing. Clean payroll. Prior work. Independent logistics. References. None. No social. No pilot license in the obvious registries. Ghost, Zara pinged again. Aisha, the investor dinner is in 2 hours. We need a new narrative. We need proof our system is safer than Seraphis. We need a miracle, Aisha typed, paused, deleted. She looked at the helipad camera feed. Ilan was a tiny figure pushing his cart along the perimeter, checking bolts without being asked. Habit of anyone who's ever needed a machine to keep breathing while the world shakes. Her office door opened without a knock. Mikhail slid in, smile lacquered back in place. "Good show on the roof," he said, as if he'd directed it. "But let's talk real. Seraphis is telling investors we've failed 3 out of 5 orbital tests. That's fabrication. We passed 4. Which one did we miss?" Aisha asked. He hesitated just long enough. "Guidance calibration, at high crosswind." "Because our test pilot black-flagged the run," Aisha said. "Safety call. The right call." She watched his face. Something quick and mean flashed there, then vanished. "Investors don't buy safety. They buy certainty," he said softly. "I can fix the narrative. But we might need to soften our public stance with the liaison council. People worry when we look stubborn with aliens. Shake a few hands. Say we'll share data. Smile. The word aliens landed with the lightness of a feather and the weight of a mountain. 2 years ago, humanity learned we are not alone doesn't come with trumpets. Just a patient knock from the Cathari, a desert-born species that tastes wind for navigation and sees heat like music. Since then, the Liaison Council kept contact timid, modest, safe. Aisha didn't mind safe. She minded being lied about. "Get me the investor deck," she said. "I'll do the rest." When Mikhail left, she stared at the city. She needed proof, right now, that Skyspan could fly an ugly wind with precision. A flight demo would crush Seraphis' rumor. But her chief pilot was down with a concussion from a bike crash. The reserve pilot was out of town. And no one else could risk it without days of clearance. No one except a ghost who flew like air agreed with him. She rode the elevator to logistics. The corridor smelled of cleaning fluid and old coffee. She found Ilan restocking a closet. Gloves, filters, things that keep a building honest. "I need a pilot for a 30-minute demo," she said, skipping apology. "Brutal crosswind. Precision hover. Tonight." "Not me," Ilan said. He didn't look up. "I'm maintenance." "You're a pilot who hides," Aisha said gently. "I won't put you on any registry. No press. Just fly. I'll double your pay for 6 months." He closed the cabinet. His hands had tiny scars like constellations. "Money isn't the reason," he said. "What is?" she asked. He met her eyes, and the air between them tightened. "Every time I fly, someone sees me. And every time someone sees me, old things wake up. Things that follow." "Seraphis?" she asked. He shook his head. "Older." The hallway hum shifted, as if the building listened. Somewhere, a service drone beeped and went quiet. Aisha thought of investors, of rumors, of the Liaison Council's careful smiles. She thought of her father teaching her that sometimes you can't be safe and honest at the same time, but you can be brave and honest. She took a breath. "I can't promise to outrun your old things," she said, "but I can promise to stand between you and anything that knocks." He almost smiled. Almost. "You can't stand between a shadow and its source," he said. "Then fly with me," she said. "Bring the light." Silence stretched thin. Finally, Ilan nodded once. "I'll do the demo. No names, no photos." "Agreed," Aisha said. He started to step past her, then paused. "And Ms. Rahman, if the wind sings the wrong way tonight, you end it. No pride." "Deal," she whispered. They didn't notice the camera embedded above the exit sign rotate 2 degrees. They didn't see the red dot that wasn't standard issue. Somewhere outside the city, in a forgotten relay shack built before contact, a process woke. It didn't belong to Seraphis. It didn't belong to any human registry. It belonged to the Eidolon Directive, a quiet list of human names the Cathari marked as convergent, people who fly as if they remember other skies, and Elon Voss was near the top. The rain came in slanting, needles that blurred the city lights into watercolor streaks. Thunder rolled above the skyline, deep and steady like a heartbeat beneath metal clouds. Inside the Skyspan hangar, technicians moved with quick hands, sealing panels and calibrating the autopilot test rig. Aisha stood by the glass doors, her phone pressed to her ear, her reflection pale against the storm's pulse. "Yes, Chairman," she said tightly. "We'll have the demo feed live in 15 minutes. Investors will see the system perform in real wind, not in a simulation." The reply was short and cold. "If it fails, you'll step down." The line went dead. She turned to the hangar floor. Elon stood near the helicopter, running his hand across the side panel as if listening through his fingertips. He'd already replaced his gray uniform with a plain black flight jacket. No insignia, no markings. His hair was tied back, his movements quiet and exact. "You don't have to do this," Aisha said. "If the wind's too rough, we abort. I'll handle the board fallout." He looked up at her, and for a second, the corners of his eyes softened. "The wind doesn't decide," he said. "The pilot does." He climbed into the cockpit. Aisha followed, strapping into the co-pilot seat. The interior smelled faintly of ozone and steel polish. Displays glowed to life, holographic gauges flickering green and amber. Outside, lightning forked over the ocean, bright enough to cast momentary shadows inside the cabin. "Systems check complete," Elon murmured, his tone professional, almost military. "Stabilizers online. Manual control confirmed." "Do I get to know what kind of pilot you were?" Aisha asked quietly. "No," he said simply, pulling on his headset. "You don't want to." The rotors began to spin. The machine trembled once, then steadied, like an animal stretching before a run. Aisha's throat was dry, but she kept her expression calm. The roof doors opened, letting the storm in. Rain lashed the windshield. "Tower clearance?" she asked. He smirked faintly. "We're not using the tower." Before she could argue, the helicopter lifted. It wasn't the careful rise of a corporate pilot. It was alive. The aircraft surged upward, cutting through the rain, twisting slightly into the crosswind. The storm shoved them sideways, but Elon corrected instantly, skimming the air's shifting layers like he'd memorized their moods. Down below, Skyspan's security feed streamed the footage to the boardroom and live investors across 3 continents. The image shook with lightning as the helicopter sliced into the storm. Aisha heard Zara's voice over the comm line, shaky but thrilled. "Telemetry is perfect. Stabilization at 99%. Investors are watching this live, Aisha. It's working." Aisha wanted to breathe, but the way Elon flew stole every ounce of her focus. His movements were instinctive, precise. He didn't fight the storm. He conversed with it. Then something changed. The navigation screen flickered. A distorted signal crawled across the HUD, a pattern of characters that wasn't from Skyspan's system. Lines of alien script flashed for an instant, then vanished. "What was that?" she asked, leaning closer. "Static," Elon said too quickly, but it wasn't static. Aisha had seen that script once. Months ago in a restricted liaison council report. It was Cathari, the language of the alien race that had given humanity partial access to their flight harmonics technology. The same tech Skyspan now used in its rotor balancing systems. That symbol sequence was a call-response pattern. "Are you in contact with them?" she whispered. He didn't answer. His knuckles whitened on the cyclic control. Outside, lightning broke in a jagged V that illuminated something vast above the clouds. A shape that wasn't a cloud at all. A structure. Aisha caught her breath. It was like a circular ripple of light and metal. Half invisible, half reflection. "What is that?" she breathed. "Something that shouldn't be this close to Earth," Elon said. His voice had dropped an octave, calm and cold. "They're early." "Who's early?" He didn't answer. The helicopter's console pinged as every instrument spiked at once. The radio screamed with feedback. The storm around them shifted, twisting unnaturally tight, a spiral forming above the city like the weather itself was responding to something unseen. Aisha grabbed the comm. "Ground control, this is Skyspan 1, do you read?" Nothing. Only static and faint musical tones, notes that bent and rose like a voice underwater. Elon's eyes narrowed. "They're scanning," he said. "Your tech, your company's tech. It's broadcasting on frequencies you shouldn't have." "What are you talking about?" "Those harmonics you reverse engineered. They're not just stabilizers. They're keys." "Keys to what?" "To gates," he said. The helicopter shook violently. The lightning didn't flash. It formed patterns, geometric loops in the air. Aisha's mind raced. The board was still watching. Every second of this was live. She could hear Zara yelling through comm interference. "Aisha! What's happening? Your telemetry's spiking!" "Cut the feed!" Aisha shouted. "Cut it now!" But she knew it was too late. The world had already seen. Elon gritted his teeth and pulled the cyclic hard left. The helicopter dove through sheets of rain, its engines howling in protest. On the horizon, the alien shape shimmered again, then fractured into light. Gone. The storm began to break apart around them, clouds tearing open as though something enormous had just left. They touched down rough but alive. The skid scraped metal. Sparks flew, then silence. Just the pinging tick of the cooling turbine. Aisha's hands shook. "You knew this could happen," she said softly. "I knew something might answer," Elon replied. He climbed out before she could speak again, walking into the rain like a shadow returning home. Back inside the building, the boardroom was chaos. Screens replayed the footage of impossible lightning patterns. Investors were demanding explanations. Mikhail was already spinning damage control, blaming sensor malfunctions and visual distortions. But the feed had captured too much detail. One frame, one frozen image, showed a symbol of interwoven circles burning faintly in the storm's light, the same mark that now glowed, almost invisible, on the side of the helicopter's hull. In an orbiting station far beyond the cloud line, a Cathari observer unit received a faint ping. The encoded signal came from Earth. One word translated across their network: contact. And in the hangar below, Elon Voss watched the rain roll off the helicopter's skin, whispering to himself in a language that wasn't human. "They've found us again." Morning light crawled across Skyspan's glass tower, soft and pale after the chaos of the night. The city below looked unchanged. Cars moved, markets opened, drones buzzed, but Aisha Rahman knew everything had shifted. Somewhere, the sky had spoken back. Her office was sealed to outsiders, but the air still buzzed with static. 3 security drones hovered silently near the ceiling, new orders since the incident. Across her desk, Zara Chien, her operations head, sat pale and restless. "The footage has gone viral," Zara said. "Every private link leaked. They're calling it the Lightning Gate. Some think it was a weather anomaly. Others say it's alien tech. The Liaison Council just sent a formal query." Aisha rubbed her temples. "Of course they did. They're sending a representative to interview you today. High-ranking. I think they know something." Aisha didn't answer. She stared at the frozen still image on her monitor. The lightning pattern captured mid-burst, a perfect ring of fractal geometry. Inside its center, the faint trace of a symbol glowed like an afterimage burned into the clouds. It wasn't just natural light. It was language. Her intercom beeped. "Ms. Rahman," said her assistant, voice shaking. "There's a visitor here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's cleared by the council's diplomatic registry. Name: Kyle Verin." Aisha's gaze flicked toward Zara. "Send him up." The elevator chimed moments later. A man stepped out, tall, pale gray skin faintly iridescent under the office lights. His eyes had no pupils, only shifting gold bands that pulsed when he spoke. "Cathari." He bowed slightly, hands clasped in front of his chest. "Director Rahman, I am Kyle Verin, liaison of the Cathari Concord. Thank you for receiving me on short notice." His voice was melodic, each word carrying a quiet resonance that seemed to hum through the air itself. Aisha stood. "You've come about the anomaly?" "Yes," Kyle said softly, stepping closer to the window. His reflection shimmered faintly like heat rising from sand. "What you call a storm?" "What we call a memory," Zara frowned. "Memory?" Kale's gaze lingered on the skyline. Thousands of cycles ago, before our first jump between stars, the Cathari built gates, machines that responded to harmonic frequencies. They connected worlds, but when the War of Convergence ended, we dismantled them. All but one. Earth's skies were never supposed to echo that tone again. Aisha's throat tightened. Then what happened last night? You activated it, Kale said simply. Or rather, someone did. Someone who knows the old harmonic pattern. Someone who wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Zara and Aisha exchanged a look. You mean Elon Voss, Aisha said quietly. Kyle turned his head. Describe him. Mid-30s. Quiet. Works maintenance. Flies like the air listens to him. The alien's eyes pulsed brighter. Then you have a problem, Director Rahman. Because that name doesn't belong to your world. Aisha blinked. What are you talking about? Kale moved closer. His expression was unreadable, but his tone was heavy. The Cathari archives keep a record of convergent bloodlines, species touched by early harmonics, hybrid strands. Most were purged when the treaties began, but one human pilot survived. He disappeared before your species entered the Concord network. His name, translated, was Elaine Voss. Zara froze. You're saying our janitor is, what, an alien? Not alien, Kyle said. Half forgotten. The child of a test that should never have been born. Aisha felt her heart pounding. Why would he be hiding here? Kyle turned toward her, voice now quieter than the hum of her desk screen. Because the Concord hunts his kind. And because the gate you opened can't tell the difference between an invitation and a confession. Before Aisha could reply, her office lights flickered. A sharp crack of static cut through every speaker. A voice, a digital distortion, echoed across her glass walls. Unauthorized signal detected. Skyspan servers compromised. Zara leaped to her console. I'm locking down the intranet. Kyle raised a hand. Don't. It's not your system that's breached. It's your building. The glass darkened as the city's power grid dimmed. In the distance, 3 drones exploded mid-air. White flashes that left trails of smoke against the morning clouds. Council Enforcement Unit, Kyle whispered. They've traced the harmonic pulse. They think your pilot summoned a weapon. Aisha stepped back, stunned. They're attacking my headquarters? Not yet, Kyle said. They're coming to extract him. And if they can't, they'll destroy everything within range. Aisha's screen flared again. Live security feed. Hangar level. Elon stood in front of the helicopter, sleeves rolled up, eyes calm. Around him, maintenance lights blinked red as armored drones descended through the roof aperture. He didn't move. What is he doing? Zara gasped. Waiting, Kale murmured. For the past to catch him. Aisha didn't think. She ran. Down the stairwell, through corridors that vibrated with the deep hum of approaching ships. Kale followed, his steps almost silent, eyes glowing faint gold in the half-dark. When they reached the hangar, the air was thick with energy. Visible, like heat waves made of color. Elon looked up. I told you it would follow me, he said. Aisha's voice shook. Who are you? He smiled sadly. Someone who tried to stop a war and failed. The nearest drone fired a pulse. The beam stopped mid-air, frozen in a shimmering halo. Kale raised his hand. Enough, he said in his own tongue, a low harmonic tone that made the walls tremble. The drones halted, systems confused by overlapping commands. Elon looked at the Cathari. You shouldn't be here, Kale. I shouldn't have to be, Kale replied. You were supposed to die, Elian. Aisha's mind reeled. You two know each other? Kale didn't answer her directly. He was one of us, half of both worlds. When our factions fought over Earth's skies, he chose you. He stayed behind. Aisha stared at Elon. That's impossible. Humans didn't even... He met her gaze. The records you have are incomplete. The Liaison Council didn't find you 40 years ago. Aisha, they came back. The hangar lights dimmed again as something massive eclipsed the roof. An alien craft, metallic and fluid at once, humming with the same frequency that had danced in last night's storm. Kale's eyes widened. They've sent an arbiter. If they capture him, they'll erase every trace of what happened here. including your company, your city, your memory. Aisha's voice was barely a whisper. Then what do we do? Ilan stepped forward, his expression calm, resolved. You get your people out. And you? He smiled faintly. I'll finish what I started. Outside, the air split open with light. Rain hammered the city in silver streaks. Skyspan Tower stood like a dark spire cutting through storm clouds, but above it, hanging in silent defiance of gravity, was something no human city had ever seen. A vast, circular craft shimmered in and out of sight, edges rippling like liquid metal caught between dimensions. The alien arbiter had arrived. Inside the hangar, alarms blared red. Aisha Rahman stood beside Ilan and Kyle, her heart pounding like it was trying to match the hum of the alien ship above them. What do they want? She shouted over the roar of the turbines and rain. Kyle's eyes glowed gold. They want balance restored. They think he broke it. Ilan didn't look away from the hangar ceiling, where small droplets trembled from vibration. They're not wrong, he said quietly. What balance? Aisha demanded. You mean
This storm?
this signal? Kyle turned to her, his tone measured, sad. No, the balance between species. Between worlds. The Arbiter enforces silence between realms. They think humanity was never meant to remember us. Before Aisha could reply, a bolt of light tore through the sky. It wasn't lightning. It was geometry. A glowing hexagonal column of energy descending straight into the tower's rooftop. The air buckled. Kyle stumbled back. They've opened a retrieval channel. What does that mean? They're not asking anymore, Ilan said. They're coming to erase the record. The helicopter shuddered as debris rained down. Ilan grabbed Aisha's wrist. We need to move. Now. They sprinted through the hangar as a blinding pulse hit the far wall, melting steel into liquid. The drones that had attacked earlier reactivated, now obeying the Arbiter's frequency. Their red optics locked onto Ilan. Aisha ducked behind a console as energy blasts ripped through the room. Kale raised his hand, letting out a deep harmonic note. The air sang. The blasts curved away, dissipating into light. Aisha stared in disbelief. What did you just do? Kyle's voice strained. Counter harmonics. It won't hold long. Ilan dashed across the floor, pulling open a side compartment in the helicopter. Inside, beneath maintenance tools and coiled wires, was a sleek silver sphere, no larger than a basketball, covered in faint glyphs. That's not Skyspan tech, Aisha said. No, Ilan replied. It's what Skyspan's tech was built from. He set the sphere on the floor. It pulsed softly, matching the rhythm of the rain. Kyle's eyes widened. You kept it? You madman! I had to, Ilan said. It's the only way to close the gate once it opens. But if you use it, Kyle said gravely, they'll trace the resonance to you. You won't survive. Aisha stepped closer. Close the gate? As in, stop that thing? Stop them, Ilan said, glancing at the ceiling. The Arbiter is not a ship. It's a judgment algorithm wrapped in flesh and light. It rewrites histories. It makes sure worlds like yours never remember meeting others like theirs. He crouched beside the sphere, his fingers hovering above it. The lights reflected in his eyes, flickering between blue and gold. You're telling me, Aisha said slowly, they erase memories of entire civilizations just to protect balance? Kyle's voice was low. They call it mercy. The sphere began to hum. A low vibration spread across the floor. Monitors cracked, glass panels spider-webbed. I can't stop them without a harmonic anchor, Ilan said. A human frequency. Aisha blinked. What? You, he said. You were in the cockpit when it responded. It knows your signal now. Kyle stepped forward, alarmed. Ilan, you can't involve her. She's already involved, Ilan snapped. They saw her. The Arbiter marked her data pattern. If we don't use it to close the gate, she'll be erased with everything else. Aisha's voice trembled, but not from fear. Then tell me what to do. Ilan met her gaze. Steady, quiet, almost gentle. You trust me? I don't even know who you are, she said. But I trust what I saw in that cockpit. He smiled faintly. That's enough. He placed her hand on the sphere. The surface was cold, then warm, then alive. It pulsed under her palm like a heartbeat. A surge of images hit her mind. Planets hanging in violet skies, cities made of glass and sound, and beings walking between stars like shadows of light. She saw the first human ships entering space, and the Cathari waiting there, watching, hesitant. She saw Elan, young, fierce, standing between both worlds, trying to make peace. Then she saw fire. "Elan!" she gasped, pulling her hand back. "You started the war, didn't you?" He shook his head slowly. "No, I tried to stop it. But when they wouldn't listen, I made them remember." Kale's tone was sharp. "You triggered the first gate. You let the worlds overlap. You caused the convergence." "I made contact," Elan said. "And I paid for it." The sphere glowed brighter. The floor vibrated. Above them, the Arbiter's energy beam thickened, its light burning through layers of atmosphere. The hangar doors buckled under the force. "They're coming through," Kyle warned. "Now or never." Elan reached for Aisha's hand again, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Focus on the sound, not the fear. The sphere listens to emotion. Think of something you can't afford to lose." Her eyes blurred with light and wind. "My people," she said. "My city." "Good," he whispered. The sphere blazed white. An invisible wave burst outward. Pure sound that shattered glass for miles. The storm froze. The Arbiter's beam wavered. Its geometry twisted, folding in on itself like a collapsing thought. Kyle shielded his eyes. "It's working!" Then Elan screamed. The energy crawling across the floor surged into his veins, burning like molten light. Aisha reached for him, but he pushed her back. "Stay focused, Elan!" The beam collapsed. A deafening boom cracked the clouds. The alien ship flickered and vanished. Silence fell. The storm broke apart. When Aisha opened her eyes, the hangar was a wreck. Smoke and rain mixed on the floor. The helicopter was cracked but intact. The sphere lay dull and inert. Kyle stood shakily, scanning the ceiling. "The gate's closed," he said. "You did it." Aisha turned, her chest tightening. Elan lay on the floor, motionless, faint light still fading from his skin. She dropped beside him. "Elan, wake up." His eyes opened slightly. "You closed it. Better than I could. You're going to be okay." He smiled faintly, voice barely a whisper. "No, but you will." A faint hum rose from the sphere. It pulsed once, twice, and then disappeared, melting into light that drifted into Elan's chest. Kale knelt beside him. "He's merging with it," he said quietly. "He's becoming the harmonic anchor." Aisha gripped Elan's hand. "What does that mean?" Kale's golden eyes dimmed. "It means he'll exist between frequencies. Not alive, not gone, just everywhere the gate once was." Elan's breathing slowed. "Don't let them erase this," he whispered. "I won't," Aisha said, tears cutting through soot on her face. He smiled one last time. "Then, we win." And the light took him. The storm outside cleared. The Arbiter's trace was gone. But in the deep layers of Skyspan's network, the signal that had started everything still pulsed quietly, hidden beneath corporate firewalls. A faint human voice whispered through the code. "The sky remembers." Aisha closed her eyes. "So will we." Kyle turned toward her. "They'll come again, Director Rahman. When they do, you'll need to decide which world you protect." She looked at the cracked ceiling, at the open sky now streaked with early sunlight. "Next time," she said softly, "we won't hide." The world didn't end that night, but it changed. Across Earth, news outlets played the same 60-second clip in endless loops. A helicopter fighting through a storm, a circle of light blooming in the clouds, then silence. The clip stopped there. Everything after was lost in interference, or so the official story said. In truth, the world had seen more than it could understand. Aisha Rahman sat before the Galactic Liaison Council 3 days later, her face calm, her mind anything but. The chamber was an oval of glass and white marble, suspended over the Pacific arcology. Rain streaked down the massive dome, turning the distant city below into a smear of silver light. Counselors, both human and alien, filled the curved bench. Kale Varon stood beside her, hands folded, a neutral observer. "Director Rahman," said Council Chairwoman Inara Mbeki, her voice crisp. "We've reviewed the footage and the data you transmitted. You claim the storm over Karachi was not natural, that a non-authorized entity known as an arbiter initiated dimensional interference." "Yes," Aisha said. "And this interference," the chairwoman continued, "was triggered by your company's test flight, which employed modified harmonic stabilizers reverse-engineered from Cathari technology." Aisha met her eyes. "Correct? And the pilot?" A pause. "He's gone." A murmur spread through the chamber, translators repeating her words in a dozen alien dialects. Kale's head tilted slightly, the faint gold of his eyes pulsing once. Chairwoman Mbeki leaned forward. "Gone, Director Rahman? Or removed?" Aisha's jaw tightened. "He saved this planet from a breach that your own archives call a gate event. If not for him, we wouldn't be having this meeting." The chairwoman tapped her console. "Our archives contain no such record." "Of course they don't," Aisha said softly. That earned her a few sharp looks. Kyle stepped forward. "Madam Chair," he said evenly, "with respect, I can confirm the gate event occurred. I witnessed the Arbiter's descent myself." The room buzzed. One of the human counselors, an older man with gray eyes, frowned. "Are you implying that your own people, the Cathari, deployed an unauthorized arbiter on Earth?" Kale's tone was careful. "I imply nothing. I state only that something acted without sanction. It is not impossible that certain autonomous remnants of our ancient network remain active." Aisha looked between them. "You mean you've lost control of your own enforcement machines?" Kale did not answer. The chairwoman sighed. "This council will review your claims. Until then, Director Rahman, Skyspan Dynamics research license is suspended. You are not to engage in further harmonic experimentation." Aisha nodded once. "Understood." But she didn't leave. She looked directly at Kale. "What happens now?" Kale's gold eyes dimmed. "Now you wait, and you listen." 2 weeks later, she heard it again. It began as a faint hum beneath the city. Low, pulsing, rhythmic. Not the sound of machinery, not power lines, not traffic. It was too alive. In her apartment overlooking the harbor, Aisha leaned against the window and closed her eyes. The hum grew clearer. She recognized the pattern. 3 beats, then 2, then 1. The same rhythm Elan had used to stabilize the sphere before the storm had broken. She whispered, "Elan?" The hum shifted, and then she heard the voice. Faint, distant, carried not through air but through the very glass. "The sky remembers. Do you?" Aisha's breath caught. She looked out across the skyline. The clouds over the ocean flickered. Not lightning, but symbols. Circles, fractals, echoes of the gate's geometry, pulsing faintly in the mist. Her tablet pinged. Zara Qian's message glowed on screen. "You need to see this. Check the satellite feed over the Indian Ocean. It's happening again." Aisha's pulse quickened. She tapped the link. The feed loaded. Grainy infrared images of a storm forming, far too symmetrical to be natural. Then, inside the storm's eye, a shape appeared. A human silhouette outlined in energy. Kyle's voice came through her comm line. "Director Rahman, you're seeing it too, aren't you?" "Yes," she whispered. "Then you understand and he's not gone." Her throat tightened. "What is he?" Kale hesitated, then said, "He's become what the Cathari feared. A living harmonic. A bridge between worlds." A bridge to what? To everything we tried to bury. The feed zoomed closer. The silhouette within the storm lifted its head. And for a moment, the satellite image flickered, showing 2 images at once. A man standing in the lightning, and a gate of light opening behind him. "Elan," Aisha whispered. Kyle's voice was low and grave. "He's trying to communicate, but each pulse destabilizes the barrier we just sealed. If he keeps this up, the gate will reopen, or permanently." "What do you expect me to do?" she asked. "You're the only one attuned to his frequency." Kyle said. If anyone can reach him before the Arbiters do, it's you. Reach him how? He's not even alive? Kale interrupted. Director Rahman, you of all people should know life isn't limited to bodies. You closed the gate with him. Part of you is bound to him now. Aisha's hand trembled. She looked at the glowing patterns on the water, the storm building into a spiral of light. If Ilan was reaching out, it wasn't random. He was calling her. Send me a transport, she said quietly. I'm going to the coordinates. Kyle's tone was sharp. That's suicide. The council will not authorize entry. I'm not asking for authorization. She cut the line. Outside her window, lightning bloomed again. Not chaotic, but deliberate. Each flash forming another piece of a message written across the sky. And though the city below slept, Aisha could read it as clearly as if he stood before her. It's not over, she whispered back. Then neither am I. Far above the earth, in the hollow wreckage of the vanished Arbiter's ship, something stirred. A fragment of code that glowed faintly with human voice patterns. It repeated a phrase again and again, transmitting into the void. Anchor stable. Awaiting response. Aisha Rahman verified. And in the distant dark beyond Jupiter's orbit, another shape, larger, older, turned toward the signal and began to move. The pilot looked at Kale for confirmation. The Cathari's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Full forward thrust. Keep our altitude above the resonance line. The ship plunged into the storm. Winds screamed across the hull. Monitors glitched. Instruments went wild. Through the glass, Aisha saw something impossible. Strands of light weaving like living threads, connecting sky to sea. The water below glowed with the same geometry that had haunted her since the hangar collapse. Ilan, she whispered. I'm here. The comms crackled. For a moment only static. Then a voice, faint but human, speaking from nowhere and everywhere at once. You shouldn't have come. Aisha's breath hitched. You said the sky remembers. I came to remember with it. They're watching, the voice said. They always are. Kyle's eyes widened. The Arbiters. Outside, the clouds shifted, not breaking, but opening. Through the gaps, shapes emerged. Vast silhouettes, metallic and luminous, moving with the slow precision of thought. They were neither ships nor beings, but something between. There's 3 of them, the pilot stammered. Closing fast. Kyle grabbed Aisha's arm. We have to leave now. No, she said. If we run, they'll chase us. If we stay, they'll listen. Ilan's voice finished through the storm. The lightning flared again, coalescing into a human figure hovering in the heart of the spiral. His form was translucent, built of energy and memory, but the eyes were unmistakable. Calm, steady, filled with the same fierce gentleness she remembered. Kyle's voice shook. That isn't him. That's the gate's echo using his pattern. Aisha stepped forward, pressing her hand to the glass. No, Kale, that's him. The ship trembled. Alarms wailed. One of the Arbiters fired a containment beam, a solid column of golden light that struck the storm's core. Ilan's form convulsed, fragments of his body scattering into arcs of energy. Aisha cried out, Stop! You're killing him! Kyle's tone was grim. They think they're saving reality. She turned to him, fire in her eyes. Then I'll change reality's mind. Before he could stop her, she slammed her palm onto the console, triggering the emergency override. The outer hatch hissed open, wind roaring into the cabin. Kyle lunged forward. Aisha! But she was already gone, stepping into the storm. The wind was like electricity, alive and whispering. Rain turned to shards of light around her. The air itself carried music. Low harmonics rising and falling, like the heartbeat of creation. Aisha hovered within it, weightless, glowing. The gate responded to her presence, ripples of blue and silver expanding from her every breath. Ilan, she called. The energy form before her flickered, coalescing into sharper detail. You shouldn't be here, he said again, but this time there was emotion, a crack in the calm. Then send me back, she said. He looked down. I can't. You're already part of the system. Every time you speak, the gate listens. Then let it hear, she said fiercely. Let it hear what we really are. The arbiters above the clouds fired again. Bolts of gold rained down like divine judgment. Each one struck the water, sending towering plumes of energy into the sky. The gate pulsed brighter, its edges fracturing into 1,000 mirrors. Elon's face twisted in pain. They think humanity stole the harmonic code. They think you're a threat. Aisha's voice rose over the wind. Then tell them the truth. I can't. I'm not their voice anymore. Then be mine. The gate roared, not with thunder, but with memory. In its depths, she saw flashes of both their lives. The hangar, the storm, the flight. Every emotion they'd shared now burned as light between worlds. Elon, what if this isn't about closing the gate? She said. What if it's about rewriting what it connects? His eyes widened. A bridge, not a wall? Yes. But if we merge the frequencies, it won't just open one gate. It'll open all of them. Then let them see what we are, she said, voice trembling but firm. Not threats, not mistakes, just alive. He hesitated, then smiled. You always did fly without looking down, she smiled back. And you always caught me. They joined hands. The storm exploded in light. The ocean beneath them glowed white-hot. The arbiters froze mid-strike, their containment beams reflecting back toward them. The gate expanded outward, covering the entire horizon in a radiant lattice of sound and light. Kale shielded his face from the bridge as alarms screamed. By the stars, he whispered. She's rewriting the resonance matrix. Through the static, Elon's voice came one last time, clear, strong, and filled with impossible peace. To those who listen, we are not broken echoes. We are the song itself. And then silence. The light vanished. The ocean stilled. The arbiters, gone. The gate, closed. Hours later, rescue drones found the Skyspan craft drifting in calm waters. Only one survivor remained. Kale Varon, unconscious but alive. He woke in a medical bay orbiting Earth, his body wrapped in regeneration mesh. The council interrogated him for days. He told them only one thing. They didn't die. They ascended. But when the technicians replayed the ship's final audio log, they heard something else. A faint heartbeat layered beneath the static, and two voices, intertwined, whispering through the electromagnetic noise. The sky remembers. And so will we. And somewhere far beyond Earth, beyond even the Council's mapped systems, a new gate shimmered to life, its harmonic signature unmistakably human. It had been 10 years since the storm that split the sky. The world called it the Karachi event. A single night when the heavens opened. A helicopter vanished, and every sensor on Earth went blind for 3 minutes. No one could explain it. The Liaison Council buried the files. Politicians called it a myth, and scientists quietly built careers trying to decode its aftershocks. But humanity remembered. Aisha Rahman's name became a quiet legend. Her last known words recorded from a ship's comm log. If the sky remembers us, then we must remember it. After that, silence. No wreckage, no remains, only questions. And yet, 10 years later, answers began to appear. The new dawn at Skyspan's rebuilt headquarters in the Karachi Arcology. Dawn light poured through transparent walls onto the conference floor. Zara Kian, now CEO, stood before a holographic projection, the schematic of something both beautiful and terrifying. It was a gate, but this one was human-made. Her engineers called it the Resonant Bridge Prototype. Its frame hummed softly, every harmonic calculated from the remnants of Aisha's data logs. Patterns once believed impossible. A small group of observers stood around her. Human, Kethari, and representatives from 2 newer species who had joined the council since, peaceful but watchful. Among them stood Kale Varon, older, his iridescent skin dulled by years of exile. "You're sure this is stable?" Kale asked. Zara nodded. "As stable as the one Aisha built by accident. But this time we control the harmonics." Kale tilted his head. "Control is a dangerous illusion," Zara smiled faintly. So is fear. She gestured to her lead technician. Begin resonance. The lights dimmed. The gate's ring shimmered with waves of silver-blue energy, humming at a frequency so low it was felt more than heard. On the main display, readings scrolled. Frequency, alignment, 92%, 97%, 100%. The gate came alive. A wave of soft light rippled through the air, and for a heartbeat, every device on Earth flickered. Not off, but awake. Music, faint and wordless, whispered through every communication line. It was the same rhythm Aisha had heard that night long ago. 3 beats. 2. 1. Then a voice. If you're hearing this, it means you've learned to listen. Zara froze. That's her. The voice was unmistakable, calm, firm, and radiant. Aisha Rahman, we are not gone. The gate didn't destroy us. It changed us. Ilan and I are part of it now, part of the frequency that connects every world that dares to listen instead of fear. We've seen beyond the council, beyond the old codes of silence. And we've seen you, the ones who still believe that contact is not corruption, but creation. Kyle's hands trembled. He stepped closer, eyes wide. Aisha? Kyle, her voice said, soft now. You always said the gate would bring ruin. Maybe it did, but only to the walls we built around ourselves. Tell your council that harmony isn't order. It's understanding. The gate pulsed brighter, projecting an image. Not video, but something deeper. Energy shaped into memory. Aisha and Ilan stood side by side, their forms translucent, surrounded by light that bent and breathed. Behind them stretched a landscape of impossible beauty, crystalline oceans under aurora skies, and countless other beings made of sound, light, and matter walking freely among one another. Zara whispered, They found a world beyond. We built it, Ilan's voice said, strong and steady. Together, the first harmonic colony, a home for those who refuse to forget. You called us anomalies. Now we call ourselves the Harmonic Collective. The gate you've built, Aisha added, connects to us. You're ready now. But remember this, it's not a machine. It's a conversation. It listens to intention. If you come in peace, it will open. If you come in greed or fear, her tone darkened slightly, it will close. And remember who tried. The light faded. The gate's hum softened to silence. Zara stood still, unable to breathe. Around her, the representatives whispered in awe and disbelief. Kyle was the first to speak. They've done it. They've rewritten the laws of connection. They've turned exile into architecture. Zara looked up at the gate, tears catching the blue glow. Then humanity didn't just survive, she said. We evolved. The Council's decision within days, the Galactic Council convened. Their chambers buzzed with fear and fascination. Some wanted the gate dismantled. Too dangerous, too uncontrolled. Others wanted to weaponize it. Only Kale stood for what he'd seen. Hope. He faced the assembly. We spent centuries silencing those who reached too far. Aisha Rahman reached farther than any of us. And what she found wasn't destruction. It was harmony. If we destroy this, we destroy the very song that built the stars. Silence fell across the chamber. Then slowly, one by one, the councillors lowered their objections. The vote passed. The gate would remain open, under human stewardship. For the first time in recorded history, Earth was declared not a colony, not a protectorate, but a partner. The first step. Through Zara stood before the gate's glowing surface in her flight suit, Kyle at her side. Reporters and council delegates watched from the perimeter as the ring brightened. Ready? Kyle asked quietly. Zara nodded. Humanity's first step into the unknown. Kyle smiled faintly. Not unknown, just forgotten. The hum rose to a crescendo. The air vibrated with gentle rhythm. Zara took a deep breath and stepped forward. The gate enveloped her in light, and for an instant, she felt everything. Oceans of sound, winds that sang in languages without words, countless presences reaching out in curiosity, not hostility. And then she saw them. Aisha and Ilan stood waiting, smiling. Surrounded by beings of light and color, Aisha's voice filled her mind. Welcome home. Epilogue. The Song Between Worlds. Decades later, the harmonic network spanned 11 systems. Humans, Cathari, and dozens of others traveled freely between gates, bound not by conquest, but by shared resonance. The old council became a union of equals, and at the heart of every gate, in every harmonic pulse, every shimmer of energy, two frequencies always remained intertwined: Aisha's steady rhythm, Ilan's answering echo. Together they formed the tone that anchored the entire network, the signal that began it all. Historians called it the Janitor's song, pilots called it the sky remembering. But for those who listened closely, on quiet nights when the stars shimmered like glass and the air felt alive, they swore they could still hear the words whispered in the hum between worlds. We are not broken echoes. We are the song itself. And humanity, at last, sang back, the end.